there was such a thing as the ghost of internet past, it would probably haunt us with a lot of Richard Dawkins quotes. But today, that's just old news. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet. This is Breakpoint. In the early 2000s, across the digital and print world of Christian apologetics, the so-called New Atheism was a central topic of conversation. Authors like Richard Dawkins, Sam Harris, the late Christopher Hitchens generated quite an audience by attacking religion in general and Christianity in particular, and portraying both as irrational, evil forces in society. Books like The God Delusion, God Is Not Great, and The End of Faith argued that belief in God was unscientific and unbelief would make us all better people. Now you might be thinking to yourself, I haven't really thought of those guys in quite a while. Exactly. The movement has grown strangely quiet over the last decade. Message board debates have petered out, rallies and debates have been canceled, book sales have flatlined. In fact, the New Atheism has been largely replaced. Some folks who once loved to join in on the outrage against religion have got woke instead and now aim their outrage at things like privilege, oppression, and perceived inequality. Others migrated from Rational Wiki to alt-right online hubs like 4chan and Reddit. Today, those sites are full of former Dawkins fans who swallowed so-called red pill ideas about race, sex, and politics, not to mention heaping doses of conspiracy theories. Now, it's fair to say now, as Stephen Poole did earlier this year in The Guardian, that the New Atheist moment has ended. But what killed it? Poole makes a strong case that it just became old news. Authors like Dawkins, Dennett, Harris, and Hitchens rode a wave of 9/11 and the War on Terror. In the aftermath of the deadliest attack in American history, it was easy to make the claim that it was religion itself, and not just certain religions, that posed unique threats to world peace, despite, of course, obvious differences between Christianity and radical Islam. According to the New Atheist, to quote Christopher Hitchens, religion just poisons everything. But now that Al-Qaeda and ISIS are in retreat and a generation is coming of age who can't remember 9/11, the New Atheism has kind of run out of tracks to run on, and they have failed to convert a younger audience. I also think that Patrick Henry College professor Gene Edward Veith offers another helpful angle on the decline of the New Atheist in a piece he recently wrote at Patheos. Militant unbelief has faltered, he suggests, because it cannot adequately explain sin. See, atheism is a reductionistic worldview. It's forced to either deny the existence of real evil or to blame religion for it. After watching institutions and industries drown in sex scandals and innocents mowed down in nihilistic mass shootings over the last 10 years, well, it's clear that the fanatically religious certainly do not have a monopoly on violence and evil. And another autopsy of the New Atheism at Arc Digital, Ben Sixsmith, suggests that those once preoccupied with arguing against the existence of God have moved on to more intense areas of rhetorical dispute, like racial and gender oppression, while those who bang on about atheism now look, in his words, increasingly monomaniacal, irrelevant, and dull. Now, where does all this leave us? Well, with the New Atheism in its twilight years and more fashionable false worldviews now taking its place, Christians need to keep apologetically focused. All false ideas need to be answered. Today, we might best serve our neighbors by pointing out the lies of identity politics or oppression politics, explaining the evolutionary roots of modern racism, or caring for the victims these bad ideas leave behind. And as we do, we'll need to point out just how inadequate every other worldview is in accounting for sin and evil, which, as Alexander Solzhenitsyn put it, runs through every human heart. In place of the numerous and varied failed accounts of what's wrong with our world, we'll need to continue to proclaim the truth that the New Atheists denied and today's fashionable ideologues ignore. That the problem with the world, that the source of evil, is in here, not out there. And because we are, at root, the source of the world's problems, salvation will only come from without and not from within. For Breakpoint, I'm John Stonestreet.